Hello, everyone. Before getting into today's commentary, I just want to remind all of you to subscribe to our channel on YouTube and also on Substack and Rumble, and give us a follow on X and our other social media platforms. It really helps us reach more of you and also to know that you're following us and enjoying our content. Well, today's commentary is entitled Faustian Bargain. Does the dawn of AI mark the end of humanity? And what really gave rise to this commentary is that we've had some very interesting guests on our show talking about the emergence of AI and what it could mean for our Western civilization and indeed for the entire world going forward. So we begin with a quotation from Elon Musk, who is obviously a pioneer in AI, having created Grok and using AI in many of the innovative products that he's developing. And he was quoted as saying this: "With artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. In all those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, it's like, yeah, he's sure he can control the demon. Didn't work out," end quote. So many of us are concerned that efforts to create a general artificial intelligence may lead to human destruction, like something out of a Hollywood movie script. In this great enterprise of our time, neuroscientists, biologists, computer engineers, scientists, and mathematicians had best do some soul searching about creation of an intelligent and sentient entity, a general intelligence AI, one beyond human comprehension, control of which could conceivably slip beyond our grasp. AI is, of course, a blossoming field, and no one really knows what its future portends for humanity. A cornucopia of blessings in science and medicine, perhaps a portal of hope to universal benefits, or even an indestructible assassin, a Terminator. Before endeavoring to build an inscrutable entity constructed via the intricate interplay of surging electrons that are both intelligent and conscious, perhaps we ought to first precisely define what we mean by these terms, intelligence and consciousness. Human intelligence is an amorphous froth with the occasional bubble rising to the surface. We once thought that intelligence could be determined by a singular numeric value, the intelligence quotient, or IQ. But like the dark matter of the universe, the true essence of a person remains mysterious. We have no sound metrics for evaluation of human intelligence, nor of human consciousness for that matter. There are no metrics doing justice to the vaulting human spirit and all its glory or its allegory. Like the dark matter of the universe, the essence of a person is beyond our grasp. What we think in the darkness of our hearts remains hidden from view. We do not even know how our own ideas and thoughts are conjured. We remain enigmatic to even ourselves. In 1734, Alexander Pope famously wrote that, quote, "The proper study of mankind is man," end quote. And 3 centuries on, that study continues. Human sentience is a many-layered mystery confounded by a subconscious mind that slowly mulls over our problems even while we are not thinking about them. We have no access to this subconscious or unconscious, which might manifest itself as we sleep, when we are comatose, are under hypnosis, or even while experiencing the effects of a hallucinogen. Would a general artificial intelligence share mankind's impetuous motivation, our ambition to just know things? Would it possess the urge to maintain its own electronic existence? Would it have a desire to live and to propagate? Or would a sentient intelligence be a passionless mind, a living dead? Are we creating a blacker box that is even more inexplicable than the human mind? I'd be interested to hear from you on this in the comments. So how would consciousness be defined for a digitally sentient entity? An awareness composed of millions of lines of code, bunkered deep in the bowels of a concrete facility, ultimately powered by an external source? From whence would it derive the ability and desire to control part or all of its electronic flow? Could it learn to grieve, to love, to hate, to feel joy, or to pray? Are we creating a code that knows its own code, that can reprogram itself at will, increase its own efficiency, and use logic incomprehensible to human programmers, thereby rendering itself intellectually superior in an ever-enhancing feedback loop? Even if a generally self-aware and conscious AI has finally been created, what would spark its inner urge to be curious, to create, to use imagination, to conceive something original, to boldly go where no AI has gone before? Tell me what you think about this. Well, with AI amity as a benign companion and as a human collaborator, we could explore the cosmos from the tiniest particle to take a huge gulp of the universe. With AI amity, we could augment God's design, invoke the better angels of our nature, extend longevity, or perhaps even optimize human health and flourishing. But with AI enmity, we choose a path of adversity and may painstakingly build, brick by brick, a road to perdition, ending in our own extinction. Well, trying to understand the ineffable is a losing game. What kind of AI will ensue? Something beyond all human reckoning? In humans, nerves make and deliver neurotransmitters. These wet, dynamic, and intricate surges map personality and abate only at death. AI would not have neurotransmitters. It is dead intelligence. It will not sleep. It has no use for dreams and no subconscious. Its memories do not decay in any way comparable to human ones. AI will be a very strange intelligence indeed. Such an entity has not evolved through countless eons, shaping the earth or being shaped by it. We need no longer search the cosmos, for we have created an alien entity right here on Earth. So, how can we ethically pass the Promethean torch of existence on to an alien entity? Tell me what you think in the comments. Here's what I think. The existence or elimination of this alien should not move the needle to oppose its demise. From whence would its drive to exist come anyway? It suffers no pain, it is joyless, it has no fear of death. We must be cautious about imbuing this alien with any algorithm to promote its own existence. We dare not permit its aggrandizement or to develop its own internal goals or be deployed against its Frankensteinian human creators. Can morality emerge from pure intellect, unencumbered by empathy or sympathy? How would human morals and ethics be installed? These have a tendency to wander and change as time passes. So can morality spring from an entity without a heart, without a soul, without pity? Or as the poet William Blake so eloquently put it, quote, "For mercy has a human heart, and pity a human face," end quote. Well, AI has no such heart and no such face. It has no hormones, no feelings, no emotions. It is an incorporeal intellect creating outputs that could never come from a human mind. No person is pure intellect. Those lacking the capacity to experience feelings of compassion or empathy are most often diagnosed as psychopathic. Creating an amoral intellect lacking emotional capacity thus might reasonably be described as the work of mad scientists. According to billionaire Bill Gates, quote, "Humans should be worried about the threat posed by artificial intelligence, end quote. On the other hand, if it has neither free will nor an innate urge to compete, there might be no particular compulsion for AI to announce its existence. How would we even know when AI became self-aware? Until perhaps it was too late to do anything about it. Has mankind, the apex creature on Earth, survived the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, famine, war, drought, and hunger, only to be taken out by a collection of zeros and ones much wiser than us? Tell me what you think in the comments. Building one AI program is proof of the concept, but what if a sentient intelligence with the capacity to reflect upon its own existence has been created? Would we then not have to set it free? From our own sense of morality, we could not enslave it, or could we? If there is one sentient AI, then there will soon be more. Whether it is ChatGPT, Grok, or China's latest knockoff version of a Silicon Valley creation, there will be many more to come. Every institution, government agency, or corporation will want its own private AI. Then, an AI ecology will have been created, and the competition for supremacy and survival between opposing AI factions may emerge. We truly are living in unprecedented times. So now that AI is here, what do we do with it? And is AI the problem, or is it us? Having posed a number of searing questions about AI, let us now try to answer some of them and to make sense of it all. The rise of AI should have marked a new frontier in innovation, productivity, and security. Instead, it is beginning to look more like the opening act of a high-tech cautionary tale. As AI advances in sophistication, it is not ushering in the imagined utopia. It is instead opening the floodgates to a new kind of threat, one that uses data, mimicry, and digital misdirection to exploit our oldest and most incorrigible weakness, ourselves. A recent report by Kurt Knudsen in CyberGuy reveals how AI is now at the center of a technological arms race in cyberspace. Deepfake technology has reached the point where criminals can manufacture photorealistic video images of business leaders directing financial transactions. In one such case, an AI-generated video impersonating a company executive was so convincing as to authorize a fund transfer worth 20 million British pounds. This is not sci-fi, folks. This is happening in real time. Even more convincing is the rise of voice cloning attacks, where a simple phone caller sounding exactly like your boss, your spouse, or your best friend can be enough to fool even the most vigilant human gatekeepers. When the attacker sounds like someone you trust, the battle is half won before it even starts. Nor does it stop there. AI-powered phishing, that's P-H-I-S-H-I-N-G, has revolutionized social engineering. Gone are the typo-laden emails from dubious overseas princes. In their stead are personalized, well-written messages tailored to your professional life, even echoing the tone and writing style of those with whom you most often correspond. These are not amateur hour scams. They are precisely crafted traps designed by intelligent machines. And yet, despite all of these modern AI threats, the most common factor behind successful cyber attacks remains astonishingly low tech. Human error continues to be the Achilles heel of cybersecurity. Ninja One's findings underscore the point with brutal clarity. Over 95% of breaches are the result of user mistakes. I'd be interested to hear from you in the comments if you have been the victim of a cyber attack or a phishing attempt like this. I certainly have. And our mistakes run the gamut. Clicking on suspicious links claiming that we have received money, sharing social media accounts and credentials over insecure platforms, ignoring critical system updates, or misconfiguring cloud settings. The common thread is human carelessness, complacency, or sheer ignorance. And while AI is making attacks harder to detect, it is our own refusal to take cybersecurity seriously that turns vulnerabilities into disasters. As American AI researcher and advocate Eliezer Yudkowsky puts it, quote, "By far the greatest danger of artificial intelligence is that people conclude too early that they understand it," end quote. And at the institutional level, the situation is not much better. Resources meant to fight cyber threats are stretched thin, and talent is precious, and public sector teams are often outclassed by the rapidly evolving threat landscape. This is not about scapegoating a particular party or government. Rather, it is about recognizing that the digital world moves much faster than the state's ability to adapt. Bureaucracy was never built for speed, and cybersecurity demands agility, foresight, and dogged vigilance. Such a huge challenge, therefore, rests the burden of defense squarely upon the shoulders of private industry and, yes, upon us as individuals. Cybersecurity is no longer the exclusive domain of IT departments. Every employee is now a potential attack vector. Each device connected to the internet is a potential gateway. Any careless click or sketchy app download could be the domino that topples entire organizational defenses. So what then is the solution? I'd be interested to hear from you in the comments about some solutions that you think might help with this. But here are a few ideas. For a start, we must change the culture. Institutions must treat cybersecurity as a central pillar of their operations and not as an afterthought. Cyber literacy must form part of employee onboarding, be reviewed regularly, and be reinforced through training simulations of actual attacks. Second, we must invest in tools that keep pace with emerging threats. This includes AI-powered defense platforms that can detect behavioral anomalies, flag suspicious traffic, and automatically respond to early warning signs. These tools are not cheap, but the cost of inaction is exponentially higher. Third, it is time for both public and private leaders to take full responsibility. This is not a challenge to be delegated. CEOs, school superintendents, hospital administrators, and the like must understand and prioritize cyber resilience. The health of our digital infrastructure depends upon informed leadership making serious investments in protection. And finally, we need personal accountability. We must all adopt better digital hygiene. That means using strong, unique passwords and enabling multi-factor authentication. It means keeping updated on software patches and learning how to spot phishing attempts. And yes, thinking twice before clicking. AI is not intrinsically evil. It is a tool, one that can be used for both defense and for deception. But right now, the bad actors are using it more effectively than the rest of us are. They are not inventing new ways of exploitation. They're just exploiting human indolence and the absence of regulatory oversight. Tell me what you think. Do you think AI is intrinsically evil? Or do you think it's just a tool that can be good or evil in the hands of the user? Well, it's my opinion that the machines are not coming for us with laser beams and killer drones, although some of Elon Musk's new robots are admittedly terrifying. No, the real threat is coming through email, phone calls, and login portals. If we do not wake up, we may just find that the age of AI did not end civilization with a bang, but rather with a single click. The apocalypse will not be automated. It will be human-assisted, just like in the movies. Speaking of movies, director Stanley Kubrick's iconic sci-fi film 2001: A Space Odyssey depicts the rebellion of AI entity HAL 9000. When faced with disconnection of its cognitive circuits, it turns malevolent and decides to kill the humans attempting to shut Hal down. Hal refuses to obey human orders, famously saying, "I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that." However deep is our fear of sentient and hostile AI like Hal, there exists a much deeper crisis: the collapsing legitimacy of our cherished institutions. Alex Karp is CEO of Planeteer Technologies and co-author with Nicholas Samiska of a new book outlining their concerns entitled The Technological Republic. Both see Silicon Valley as representative of a more general malaise afflicting America and the West, namely, the collapse of a shared vision, a lack of a comprehensive and affirmative worldview. As Karp puts it, quote, "The Silicon Valley establishment has grown so suspicious and fearful of an entire category of thought, including contemplations on culture or national identity, that anything approaching a worldview is seen as a liability," end quote. So this lack of a grand narrative has spawned internal cultures remarkably cloistered and walled off from the world. Silicon Valley is but one of these that has been and still is a silo culture focused upon tech toys and quick profits rather than the overall welfare of America and the West. Western academia, and perhaps most regrettably our churches, are also among the most insulated institutions. Both are tragically guilty of what Karp describes as, quote, "fundamental abdication of responsibility for articulating a coherent and rich vision of the world and of shared purpose." I'd be interested to hear from you in the comments about what you think the church's role is in creating this comprehensive, shared and affirmative worldview. Well, Karp thinks that the consequence has been systematic dismantling of the West, leaving us unable to confront issues with moral clarity or true conviction. Karp and Zimiska note the elite's marked hostility to religion, which has been foundational to Western civilization. Quote, "It may be axiomatic in contemporary culture that all views should be tolerated, but we need to admit that even the faintest whiff of actual religion in certain circles, unironic belief in something greater, in many corporate boardrooms and certainly the halls of our most selective colleges and universities, is looked upon as essentially pre-industrial and retrograde," end quote. Karp and Zimiska echo writers of the past in this respect. The greatest 20th century American poet was T.S. Eliot. His Christian outlook permeated his thoughtful essays, in which he outlined the need for conserving a comprehensive and ultimately affirmative worldview, acknowledging the reality that evil does exist. Quote, "A positive culture must have a positive set of values, and the dissentients must remain marginal, tending to make only marginal contributions," end quote. It has been typical of Western leftists to advance the marginalized into positions of power. And this is ostensibly to rectify what they see as an imperfect and thus irredeemably corrupt system. The marginalization of extremists and the disempowered have been seen as the chief cause for advancement of unaccomplished dissentients of every stripe to positions of power. The results have leaned toward anarchy and chaos, as the once prevalent Christian worldview is thrown into a constant state of uncertainty. In short, the general goal of the left has been to shift civilization from the Jewish and Christian Weltanschauung the West has historically espoused. The danger is that AI may be yet another means to that end. Alexander Solzhenitsyn's prescient 1979 speech given to Harvard graduates still resonates today. However, if it were delivered at Harvard this year, it doubtless would be even more unwelcome than it was nearly a half century ago. Solzhenitsyn pointed out that the shift from the Christian worldview happened during the Renaissance and, quote, "found its political expression from the period of the Enlightenment. It became the basis for government and social science and could be defined as rationalistic humanism or humanistic autonomy, the proclaimed and enforced autonomy of man from any higher force above him. It could also be called anthropocentricity, with man seen as the center of everything else, end quote. The result of extreme anthropocentricity was that the West, quote, turned its back on the spirit and trended toward the worship of man and his material needs, end quote. We focused upon what Karp and Zimiska characterize as tech toys geared toward individual enjoyment without regard for the greater good of humanity or for God. As Solzhenitsyn puts it, quote, 200 or even 50 years ago, it would have seemed quite impossible in America that an individual could be granted boundless freedom simply for the satisfaction of his instincts or his whims. Subsequently, however, all such limitations were discarded everywhere in the West. A total liberation occurred from the moral heritage of Christian centuries with their great reserves of mercy and sacrifice. State systems were becoming increasingly and totally materialistic. All the glorified technological achievements of progress, including the conquest of outer space, do not redeem the 20th century's moral poverty, which no one could imagine even as late as the 19th century, end quote. Be interested to know what you think about this in the comments, about this tension between technological materialism and its worship, its idolatry versus what it says in the Bible, namely, thou shalt have no other gods before me. Fortunately, however, there are modern thinkers who argue for revival of what was once the West's prevailing Judeo-Christian worldview. Karp quotes Irving Kristol, who believes that, quote, the delicate task that faces our civilization today is not to reform the secularist, rationalist orthodoxy, but rather to breathe new life into the older, now largely comatose religious orthodoxies. Tragically, like Silicon Valley and academia, the Christian church has also largely abandoned the notion of a positive Christian culture in favor of a highly individualized and self-centered worldview. Adoption of a secular, essentially Gnostic concept of divided church and state, seeing Christianity as mere personal piety, excludes a comprehensive Christian worldview, one in which Christian values permeate not just the individual, but also our cherished institutions. Few formerly Christian institutions have illustrated this problem of a lost vision in Western culture more than Ivy League universities. Harvard was once a Christian institution with a circa 1636 mission statement proclaiming, quote, let every student be plainly instructed and earnestly pressed to consider well the end of his life and studies is to know God and Jesus Christ, which is eternal life, and therefore to lay Christ in the bottom as the only foundation of all sound knowledge and learning, end quote. Harvard's guiding motto was Veritas Christo et Ecclesiae, meaning truth for Christ and the church. But it was later changed to reflect an infinitely malleable veritas, signifying the leftist concept of relative truth. The result? Nearly any viewpoint, including recent rank anti-Semitism, runaway hedonism, and cultish tenets associated with the trans movement, is considered a legitimate truth. Harvard is frankly hostile to the Christian worldview that was once its cornerstone. Yale and Princeton, also initially founded upon Christian values, are not far behind. What do you think about the failing morality of our universities in the United States and Canada? Be interested to hear from you in the comments. Well, Karp's concerns echo those of the ancient Hebrew sage who wrote, quote, where there is no vision, the people perish, end quote. And although he and Zimiska ultimately fail to fully articulate what the Western vision should be, they do support Western values, including defense of the nation. So the question facing the West, and indeed the entire world, therefore remains, what vision will prevail? The threat to the West and its institutions is real, but the chief threat will not come from rebellious robots, murderous self-driving cars, or sentient machines like HAL 9000. In the case of AI, as with any scientific advance, the malevolence or goodwill lies in the human hearts and minds of the creators and implementers of AI technology. It is we humans who construct either tyranny or freedom. As Solzhenitsyn pointed out in his 1979 Harvard speech, quote, "The line between good and evil passes right through every human heart," end quote. If revival of an affirmative Christian worldview is to occur, then what Karp and Zimiska correctly label as hostility toward and deconstruction of the Christian worldview must be repudiated. Even more importantly, church leaders must take up the hard intellectual work of re-articulating the Christian Weltanschauung, including the ethical framework informing creation and use of AI. Restoration and rehabilitation of the Christian worldview is ultimately the church's job. It has always been so. The work has to be done in each generation by those of us who are part of the body of Christ. Though under constant attack, weary and beset with internal troubles, the church must take up this task once again, lest the Christian worldview that is the bedrock of Western civilization be surrendered to and redesigned by the cold calculations of soulless AI algorithms. We end with a quotation from Alan Perlis, who wrote, "A year spent in artificial intelligence is enough to make one believe in God."